Lieutenant Kaya Rowe had been trained to read battlefield telemetry like a gambler reads cards, searching for patterns that meant life or death. But nothing in her training had prepared her for the jagged neon skyline of Meridian Delta, a metropolis of floating arcologies known as the Neon Spires. Flickering beneath low-hanging storm clouds streaked with plasma fire across the tactical hologram inside the drop shuttle, crimson threat icons multiply. The Caffrey Dominion siegewalkers, all jointed steel and malignant green running lights, were already hammering at the outer arcology rings. If Meridian fell, the orbital elevator that fed 3 continents would go dark, and the Dominion would own the skylanes of half the planet. Kaya's mind jabbed at the numbers scrolling beside each icon: mass, velocity, impact yield. The Dominion's new Gauss cannons could toss a tungsten spear through a skyscraper and keep going, but it was the thrum under her boots she cared about, the resonance of the experimental exofarm locked around her body. Officially, it was the Vanguard Core AEX, Mark IV, or Adaptive Exofarm, EX Exchanger. Unofficially, it was the Punchback. Everything about it had been designed in secrecy under Dr. Esper Navarro, who stood beside Kaya in the shuttle, clutching a data slate whose screen still bore her lab's coffee stains. "Telemetry confirms we're the only uplinked squad in range," Navarro muttered, pushing stray gray hair behind her ear. The 237th Armored collapsed a whole city block trying to contain that Dominion Dreadwalker. "Their hull pulses are off the charts, Kaya. Exactly what we need to prime the capacitors." Kaya flexed her gauntleted fingers. Carbon diamond tendons whispered. Hydraulic pistons hummed against her calves. In the exofarm's chest cavity, crystalline capacitors waited like coiled vipers, starving for impact energy. The principle was simple, but terrifying. The harder the frame was hit, the more energy it stored, channeling it into a counterpunch of cataclysmic force. That meant someone had to get hit hard. "Once we're in, we draw fire," Kaya told her squad over the internal comms, her voice steady despite the chill on her spine. "No diversions, no heroics, beyond protocol. We bank their kinetic, then we drop their walker. One exfil window only." Sergeant Yoon, massive in his own frame, let out a grin that flashed in his visor's HUD reflection. "Copy that, LT. I've always wanted to catch an artillery shell with my face." Kaya's lips quirked, despite the tension. It helped to have people who joked under pressure. She toggled channels. "Tower Command, this is Vanguard Beta, green for hot drop, requesting fall quarter." "Beta, Tower," came the reply over static. "You are cleared. Be advised, city shields at 40% efficiency and falling. Dominion Walker Group Sigma closing from the east." "Acknowledged. We'll end that conversation shortly." The shuttle's deck lurched as the rear hatch split open, blasting the compartment with wind laced with burning ozone. The neon spires sprawled below, ringed by spiraling skyscrapers whose exterior hollow boards still flickered between advertisements for synth-sake and evacuation warnings. Beyond them, the Dominion Dreadwalker strode, each footstep cracking ferroglass avenues and hurling hiss plumes of steam. Around the giant, lesser walkers peppered the remaining defense batteries with rail spikes. Kaya's heart pounded in sync with her frame's gyros. "Beta Squad, drop on my mark. 3, 2, punch gravity." She stepped into the void. The exofarm's inertial dampers caught her fall and transformed it into a controlled plummet, thrusters nudging her vector. The heads-up display lined her vision with altitude numbers, slipping toward 0. Around her, the rest of Beta Squad fell like meteorites trailing sapphire ion tails. A Dominion rapid-fire Gauss cannon tracked them and spat a burst of tungsten needles. Aya pivoted, letting the first salvo rake across her shoulder plates. The Punchback's impact sensors screamed green bars across her visor. 14% capacity, 26%, 33%. Each hit translated into power caged within the capacitor's crystalline lattice. Kaya's arm swung, and a directional discharge vented the excess into a short pulse that flipped her orientation mid-air, avoiding the next volley. She landed in a fountain plaza, slabs of marble shattering under 6-ton boots. Water erupted around her like sparkling debris. "Navarro, capacity check," she demanded. 39% on you, Lieutenant, the scientist replied. Yoon is at 56, the others lower. We'll need at least 80 on someone for a critical release. Copy. Kaya scanned the plaza. Holographic koi still leapt above the dry fountain basin, even as real flames licked the edges. To the east, the Dominion Dreadwalker angled its cyclopean head, as though deciding if the new arrivals were worth its attention. Then it decided. A sonic boom rocked the plaza as the walker's arm cannon launched a maghammer shell. Yoon shoved 2 troopers aside and caught the shell dead center. The impact flared in a spear of violet light around his armor. Stone tiles vaporized. Yoon staggered back, but his laughter crackled over comms. 79%, Navarro crowed. Give me one more and we're cooking. Kaya sprinted each stride, cratering pavement. Above, the floating sky tram rails buckled as another Dominion walker targeted her with chain laser fire. She raised her right forearm. The beams struck, refracted across adaptive prism plating, and dumped raw heat into the capacitors another 7%. The punishing barrage threw molten sparks across her visor. Kaya's muscles begged for relief, but she pressed on, zigzagging through cascades of slag. She vaulted a toppled maglev car and came face to face with a lesser walker, crouched between 2 banking towers. Its reactor core glowed like a malevolent heart. Sensible doctrine would order her to sidestep and hit it from the flank, but doctrine assumed normal weapons, not a literal thunder fist waiting to be unleashed. Kaya chose speed. I'm at 84, she called. Navarro, run the vent protocols. Overcharge parameters confirmed. Warning, 1 strike only before mandatory cooldown. Kaya felt the capacitors thrum, the stored energy making her teeth itch. She coiled her right arm back. The exopharm servo muscles locked. A containment field snapped around her fist, and the physics of the world went briefly, terrifyingly quiet, as if the universe inhaled. She punched. The blow connected with the lesser walker's thorax. The frame's energy discharge converted into a directional plasma shockwave that carved a glowing blue tunnel through the machine's chest. The walker's plating peeled apart like petals under atomic wind. The shockwave crushed the banker tower's lower floors, glass cascading down in glowing sheets. A delayed thunderclap rolled out, toppling streetlights 3 blocks away. The walker dissolved into flaming scrap. Kaya staggered, knee actuators groaning, HUD blinking red, capacitors empty. Cooldown, T-220 seconds. But the Dominion Dreadwalker had noticed. It reoriented, seismic steps rattling the neon skyline. Each stride was a mountain deciding to move. Beta, form on me, Kaya ordered, her lungs burning. We take the big one or this city dies. I hate cooldown clocks, Yoon muttered. But he and the others leapt rubble to close ranks. Their exoframe surface plating shimmered where heat radiated through microvents. Navarro piped up. Lieutenant, we can expedite recharge if we slave your suits into a daisy chain. Share the striking load. The Dominion's primary cannon outputs multiple gigajoules. We can convert that into a city-shattering counterstrike. Kaya looked at the monstrous walker, at the distance to the still-occupied residential spires behind them. One miscalculation, and their own punch could flatten half the district. Risk factors? Navarra inhaled audibly. Thermal rollback could melt servo bundles, or blow out the capacitors in a Riemann cascade, meaning they could vaporize themselves before they struck. Kaya swept rubble from her path and signaled affirmative. They aren't scared of... Navarra inhaled. Do it. Yoon, you take point. We draw as cannon fire, but we keep it oriented away from civilian towers. The Dreadwalker's chest plates irised open, revealing an ion maw charging to deadly luminescence. Yoon slammed his fists together. Here it comes! The cannon fired. A pillar of blinding emerald lanced toward them. Yoon and Kaya crossed arms, letting the beam wash over adaptive shielding. Impact readings soared. 40%, 55%, 70%, a torrent of unfiltered fury. The exoframes quivered under the onslaught, fusion welds complaining. Behind them, Corporal Ishikawa reversed her palm plates, absorbing stray blast fragments and channeling the energy into Kaya's suit via wireless inductive transfer. Numbers leapt. 86%, 92%. Heat alarm shrieked. The suit's coolant reservoirs flashed to critical. Kaya's vision doubled. Sweat or coolant mist? She wasn't sure. She felt her body as if submerged in molten syrup, movements delayed. Capacitors at 98% and climbing. Another second of exposure and the suit would breach. "Navarro now!" she roared. "Apex channel opened. All units, brace!" The exoframe's magnetic couplings flared violet as they linked their surplus energy, funneling it into Kaya's right arm. She planted her left foot, cracked pavement, and crouched. The Dreadwalker, its cannon cooling, advanced with a mechanical screech. Kaya sprang. The punchback's thrusters ignited, hurling her upward like a shell. She aimed at the walker's head assembly, fist drawn back, the universe again inhaling. For a heartbeat, she saw her reflection in the walker's obsidian optic, a human comet trailing blue-white plasma. She struck. The impact unleashed every stored jewel in a hemispherical blast that outshone the city's neon. Air instantaneously ionized. Shock waves trilaterated across the skyline, popping windows on remote skyscrapers like glass corn. The Dreadwalker's skull shattered. Its torso collapsed inward, imploding under the discharge. Its reactor breached, but the blow had angled the explosion skyward, a fountain of emerald fire spearing through the storm clouds. The entire walker folded to its knees before toppling backward, carving a trench through abandoned maglev tracks and into the river channel beyond. Silence followed. Unnatural, thick, disbelieving. Then the distant wail of emergency sirens filtered back in, mingling with the hiss of rain beginning to fall through the scorched clouds. Kaya landed amid drifting embers. The exoform's legs buckled. She was dimly aware of alarms. Coolant zero, capacitors cracked, right arm actuators seized. But she was alive. Meridian Delta still rose around her, battered yet standing. "Status!" she croaked. Yoon's voice came, ragged but exuberant. "I've still got all my limbs. Some assembly required." Navarro coughed across the channel. "Lieutenant, I'm reading catastrophic wear on your primary joints. We need medevac and a bigger lab budget." Kaya tried to smile, but her lips barely moved. Rain pattered against her helmet visor, streaking through soot. Each drop hissed where it met overheating armor, turning to steam. "Beta Squad!" she broadcast on the open frequency, her voice echoing off steel canyons. "Dominion walkers neutralized in Sector 8, requesting repair drones and casualty sweep." Tower command broke in. "Tower to Beta, we read your heat signature from orbit. Spire shield stabilizing. Reinforcements inbound. Damn fine work." Another voice, grainy, patched through. "Commander Reyes of the 237th Armored. If that was your prototype, Lieutenant, remind me never to play catch with you." Laughter rippled through the shared channels, raw and shaky, the shock laugh of soldiers realizing they've survived. But the Dominion had not come with only one Dreadwalker. Kaya knew orbital scans showed at least 2 more in atmosphere, slower, stomping across districts where other Vanguard units fought. And above them, the Dominion's cruiser Sistrafex still loomed in low orbit, its drop bays glowing. She forced her burnt actuators into a partial salute. "Navarro, can we still fight?" The scientist hesitated, without time to swap the cracked capacitors. "No. Your suit's a brittle eggshell now. Yoon's is barely better. We'd need full field replacement." Orders crackled in from higher command, confirming her dread. They wanted Beta to hold position, defend the civilian shelters, wait for relief. Kaya's shoulders sagged, but only for a second. She opened a private channel to Navarro. "If we can't swing again, maybe we can teach the others." "You mean accelerate the rollout?" The Mark IVs were never field certified for mass issue. "They are now." Kaya gestured at the smoking crater, where the Dreadwalker's head had been. Get me a link to engineering core. I want schematics pushed to every fabrication unit in the city. Micro-thrusters, capacitor arrays, the whole toolkit. We won this block by trading Kinetic for Kinetic. We scale it up before the next Dreadwalker gets here. Navarro's eyes shone behind cracked goggles. You just volunteered us for 14-hour crash prints and 0 sleep? Sleep after the planet's free, Kaya answered. Thunder rolled. Real thunder this time. As rain intensified, quenching fires and painting the skyline with watery neon reflections. Emergency drones buzzed overhead, shining spotlights on Beta Squad's battered forms as they hauled survivors from rubble. Even the holographic koi still flickered above the fountain, defiantly looping its canned animation through smoke and rain. Yoon hoisted a slab of ferrocrete off a pinned civilian. "Lieutenant!" he called, voice crackling through damaged speakers. "2 alive here! They watched your punch. Think you're some kind of lightning goddess?" Kaya knelt beside the civilians. The exofarm servos groaned but obeyed. She retracted her visor. Rain chilled the sweat on her brow. One of the rescued, a young girl clutching a shattered toy drone, looked up with wide eyes. "Are you going to hit more monsters?" the girl whispered. Kaya met her gaze. In that moment, the weight of the suit, the burned circuits, the looming fight all shrank behind the simple clarity of the question. "Yes," Kaya said. "And next time, it won't take as many hits, because the Dominion still believed power flowed one way, from cannons to targets, from conquerors to conquered. But the punchback turned that equation inside out. Every blow the enemy struck was another nail in their own coffin, another volt banked in the wrists of those who refused to kneel." Navarro appeared at her side, tablet displaying accelerated production cues. "Fabricators confirm parts for 30 exoframes by dawn. After that, it scales exponentially." Kaya rose, raindrops sizzling on her frame. In the glow of burning wreckage, the neon spires looked wounded but unconquered, each tower a candle in gale winds. She opened a broadband channel, monitored by all Vanguard frequencies. "This is Lieutenant Kaya Rowe, Beta Squad. The Mark IV punchback is combat validated. Any unit that wants one, line up. But remember the rule. You have to stand where the enemy thinks you'll break. You have to take the hit. Then you give it back." Static answered. Then cheers. Then a surge of requests for schematics. Somewhere high above, Kai imagined the Dominion cruiser's commanders reviewing fresh telemetry. A single suit punching a hole through a Dreadwalker's skull. She hoped the data scared them. She hoped it convinced them to keep firing. Because every round they sent now was just more ammo for the Vanguard. Sirens faded, replaced by the steady drum of rain. Emergency lights pooled on wet streets, neon colors dancing in puddles. Beta Squad's damaged exoframe stood amid the broken plaza like titans at rest. Fight's not over, Kaye thought. But neither are we. She flexed her aching hand inside the gauntlet, already feeling the new resonance. The city's heartbeat, the squad's resolved, the Rito-old forges, waking up in subterranean bays, kinetic potential waiting for the next impact. The battle for Meridian Delta had only begun, but from this night forward, every enemy strike would carry a receipt, a punch transmuted into promise, a lesson carved in neon lightning across the spires.